Hello, this is 58 Keys Live, quite possibly for the third time. Not 100% sure about that. Keyboard in the way there. Listen, if you've been trying to get to watch the live stream, you're possibly not seeing this yet because you're watching the one that ended over there. Let's tell you what, there's going to be a live recording of this. It might even have a bit edited out at the start. But while we're here and it seems to be working, I want to say to you, hello, I'm William Gallagher, and this is 58 Keys. It's a special 58 Keys, still as ever, and as always, for writers like you and me who use and who write on Macs and iPhones and iPads. But in this case, it's live, and it's actually live for a reason. I think we kind of need a purpose to talk about it. We need a thing to be doing together. Hello, Tony. Oh, how very nice. Nice to see you there. I look very glowy. It's ethereal in here suddenly. This is special to me because this is the third anniversary. Well, actually, last Sunday was the third anniversary of 58 Keys, and there's been a live 58 Keys video every Wednesday at least. So I should get out more, really. To mark a 3-year anniversary, though, and also what I've got planned for the forthcoming 4th season that begins next week, I want to do something with you here live now. I want to make use of us getting together like this. And very specifically, what I want us to do really is get you writing, because you haven't been, have you? Wait, am I just looking in the mirror here or something like that? Anyway, I don't think you've been writing, at least maybe not writing as much as you want to. And I think I might have something that can help for you. 58 Keys is usually about, apps and services and tools and things that we use as writers. And there'll be some of that. I don't think I can escape. It's kind of intrinsic with what we do. But also along the way for it, there are things that are more, well, the kind of things you and I will get as writers, really. So there's some technology, but really we're writers using this gear, this expensive gear we spend all this money on. We're making it work harder for us. That's the purpose for it. Very importantly, though, I think if you are managing to watch this live stream, can you please pop in the chat box and let me know, does my hair look okay? And if you're not, if you're watching it, later on the recording things for it, it would be so useful to me. I just conflated extremely and so into so extremely useful to me for you to say where you are, what time zone and when you're watching it. I want to do this at a time that works for all of us, but all I know is that this time probably isn't it. 7 p.m. UK time on a Wednesday is the time 58 Keys goes out. So it feels like this is a time to try, but I have a feeling that a later time might be better. And anything you can tell me would be really good. And Mike, thank you very much. I combed it just before you said that. Okay. Let's get on with things. I'm very definitely, by the way, up for a natter. If you want to go in the chat box and interrupt me with things, I will really enjoy that. It's no point doing it live, isn't it? 3 a.m. Thursday, and oh, you're in a nice place. They also, night owl. Okay. Thank you for spending your night owl times with me. Say oi, William, in the chat box. If you have a question about writing on Macs and iPhones and iPads that you think I might know the answer to, just ask away. And if a typical man, if it's a question I know the answer, I'll leap straight on it and tell you straight away. Basically, I'm going to be talking a lot, really, and I would like you to stop me at every interval you possibly can. So, question in the chat box. So, Norfolk, Mike, you're visiting family in Norfolk, and you're on YouTube with me. Excellent. Get the family around that. Are they writers? Will they understand this? Get them together. Yeah, okay. Actually, just a thought, if you do ask a question, maybe write question in all caps inside the chat box, because you can tell I'm getting a bit carried away. I might well miss it. Germany, 8 o'clock. Yes. Mike, I don't think we're going to go down this line. Okay, let's just leave that there. I think we need to cover things off like, why don't you write enough? Let's be serious here for a minute. I think there are reasons why you, specifically you, and okay, also obviously me, don't write as much as we want to, as we probably think we should. Not sure about that, but not enough anyway. And a big reason is there isn't enough time. Is that it is very hard for you to make the time to write. I mean, there's always something else going on. There's always something pressing. Forgive me, this is the only time that I am intentionally going to be a bit of a smart ass, but I am. I would like to point out you've made the time right now, haven't you? You've made this time to watch this. Now, I know that's different. Anyway, you can sit down and watch things on YouTube anywhere. Writing, you might need quiet, you might need time away from your family and things like that. But you chose to make time, you can spend it writing. It probably is not a good thing to say to you now, please go write in this time. But okay, you could for it. All right, let me just do this. There. Um, Making the time to write. You can make time to do anything pretty much. Making time to write, I think, is more difficult than most things for reasons that, yeah, I want to talk to you about a little bit because I don't know that I have a way around it, but I have things to suggest. Anyway, things that seem to be working for me. So, not enough time, I think, is the biggest one for us. But there's also the idea that maybe you stand a keyboard and you don't know if what you're going to write is going to be any good at all. You don't know if you're rubbish at this or not. And yeah, I have no idea. I don't mean about you. I mean about me. I mean, I've been a full-time freelance writer for 30 years, so I seem to be getting by. But you sit down, you write something, and it's very hard to escape this thing of what is the point? This is never going to work. It's always going to be rubbish. It's miserable, isn't it? Why do we do this? I don't have a solution. I just tell you, you might as well keep going on. I mean, all right, I tell you what, I was smart ass a moment ago. Let me be patronizing for a second. Let's get all of that stuff out the way first. Smart ass patronizing. Here's the patronizing thing. No matter what you're writing, whether it's good or bad, no matter if today is the first day you picked up a Mac keyboard to write some, well, that's very exciting. But there's no difference between then and 30 years of this stuff. It's still always one word after another. I do think that's patronizing. I do think that's obvious, but I also kind of like it because it's like we're digging away at something and we're getting to places. It's just maybe if we could just shed the worries about whether we're good. And well, that's the thing. If you wrote the stupidest thing, the most ridiculously, insanely awful piece of writing in the history of civilization, well, there probably should be a prize for it. But even so, you can go back and fix it later. And this is somebody else being patronizing. I can't remember who said this to me. It's kind of patronizing and yet annoyingly true. The absolute worst thing you've ever written down is still better than the best thing you've thought about and haven't written anything about it. Teresa, you're on. Thank you. I'm sorry for mucking you around there with my camera. You'd be very interested to know. Here I am trying to talk about using writing tools, and I pushed all the wrong buttons. There you go. I was trying to use a camera that no longer exists. Is that a bit Twilighty Zone? Is that a bit story? Do you get like this? Please tell me it's not just me. The stupidest things make you think of, oh, that could be a story for it. Yeah, okay, you're looking at me. I'm trying to be serious here, and you're looking at me. I've said so. Reasons for not writing: you haven't got the time. You don't know if you're any good or not. Time we can fix. Don't know if you're good or not. We can kind of push out of our head and get by. And then the last one, possibly the most depressing one, I think. You could sit there writing away and think that there is no point writing, no point writing this thing because no publisher's going to get it. No publisher's going to even look at us. It's all this closed shop thing. Publishing is this big wall we can't get by. I've been a publisher. I've more often been an editor, actually, but with either of those kind of hats on, I can tell you writers are really needed. And we're not always appreciated, but we're really needed. Yeah, and nothing about a wall. Yeah, if it seems like publishing is this big wall that's in front of you, well, yeah, actually it is. But the reason the wall is there is that there are so many writers and unfortunately so many people kind of playing at writing that editors and publishers is just this barrage. I'll tell you what, ask me about how I dealt with people trying to get the right for me. I have stories, but we'll prove on with other things. Have I missed any reasons for not writing? Time, worry, different type of worry. I think those are the main ones, aren't they? So how about we try to knock some of them out of the way? And actually, let's have some trickery. Let's do the 58 keys thing of including technology and apps. You're out there. you're working away on something, or you're cooking, you're putting the bins out, whatever it is, you know that's when you're going to get an idea for a story, or most often it's dialogue with me. A line of dialogue will come and maybe a character connected to it. And I'm standing there holding the bin thinking, but if then if they did that, then but who would, yeah. Ideas come when you can't do anything about them. So do something with them quite quickly so that they kind of get out of your head. You don't have to keep trying to remember them. And maybe you don't keep thinking about them when you should be doing other things, but you capture them, and you capture them using your iPhone, because the odds are your iPhone or maybe your Apple Watch, one or the other, is with you all the time. Um, you can pick up your iPhone at any point and say, "Hey Iris," I mean Siri, don't you? "Hey Iris, remind me to write a story about trees." I have no idea where trees just came from. Okay, when I was thinking about this, I was thinking of chocolate, but yeah, trees, chocolate, right? Hey Iris, remind me to write a story about chocolate trees. Well, how about this, Ashik? I love this one. And in fact, next week's 58 Keys is going to be a thing of like 5 iPhone tips for writers. And this is one of them. It's not my absolute favorite. I cannot wait to say my favorite, but it's like a second close favorite. You pick up the iPhone, you're reading something on the iPhone. Say you're waiting for somebody or whatever. You're just flicking through Facebook or Twitter, or you're on a website and things. And suddenly, right there, maybe just as the person you're waiting for arrives, you see something. You see something really good. You see a web page, maybe, that's just exactly right. It's, I don't know, a cruise line's website, and that's just where your character would go. It's some catchy headline on Huffington Post that makes you think of another story. Whatever it is, you want to keep it, you want to keep your mind it, you want it in your head, but you can't do anything with it now. So instead, you pick up your iPhone, and it's very similar to this one, but subtly different. You say, "Hey Iris, remind me about this." And it will. Your iPhone will save a little reminder that, yeah, maybe it's the title of the website or something, but the reminder will have a link back to that web page or to that text message. Actually, I did it just before we came on. I did it with an email I need to reply to. It was, "Hey Iris, remind me about this email." I did that actually on the Mac behind me, and for some reason, Siri on the Mac, it just seemed a bit fiddly. Sitting there with the keyboard right in front of me, I should have just typed it, but it was in my head, so I tried it. On iPhone and iPad, it just seems to work very naturally. Oh, Galactic Torres? Oh, Galactic Tones. Good evening. I love that. My name's really dull, isn't it? William Gallagher. W. Gallagher. Just, yeah. Okay. We could change it. Let's not go down that line. You captured an idea. Fine. You come back to your iPhone later, or your Mac or your iPad. The idea is saved there. It's in reminders and stuff. There's an argument that you shouldn't save story ideas to reminders or to any to-do app, and I'm kind of on board with that, because your to-do app is all the things you actually got to get on with. A story idea, write about chocolate trees. It doesn't feel like a to-do task, does it? Doesn't really feel like a story either, but something like that. However, to-do apps and things like this are really good for just capturing something straight away. So you could do it. There are other options. 58 Keys has covered things like, there's an app called Just Press Record, where you can tap a button on your watch, talk for ages, and then when you get back home, your iPhone or your iPad has not only got the audio, but it's transcribed it. So when you're driving, if you're driving or you're on a train and you're not embarrassed by all the people around you hearing you, you could dictate an entire story that way. I'm not certain about that one, because main noises, all this stuff, but you can do a lot. There are all of these sort of options. But okay, so you capture an idea. The next thing is to, make some time to write something with it. And I just mentioned to do apps and not being right for story, but actually, I think one of the most useful tools for a writer is a to-do app. I just mentioned that Siri will save a reminder about something. Your iPhone, your iPad, and your Mac, they already come with Apple's own reminders app. It was originally very basic. It's now less basic. It's actually really good in so many ways. It's not the most powerful one. So there are apps like Things and Todoist and my beloved OmniFocus that do more, but you've already got reminders and it will already work with Siri. It will already do these things. Any to-do app, though, is useful to us for this. Well, for this reason, really. Two reasons. Quick two reasons. I'm not going to ever say that your writing should be more important than uh, a day job you might have or a family member you've got to look after, you're a carer for. But I'm going to insist that your writing is still important. And if you treat writing as this thing that you will do after you've done all of the important stuff, well, you're never going to do it, are you? You will never get to the stage where everything is done and you can write. So managing everything you do, getting on top of everything you do, no matter what it is, clears space, I think, in your head for this. Have a to-do app that has all the things you've absolutely got to do. And then when they're done, you know they're done until tomorrow or whenever the next thing is. You can focus on the writing. You can, more than just I've done these 5 tasks that had to be done, and these 3 can wait till tomorrow. You're in that state where you can write for a bit and not be spending the time thinking, have I done everything that absolutely had to be done? You know you have. So it liberates you, frees you. You can write more. I used to work for BBC Worldwide, and there was some job there. I can't remember the well, this is rubbish. This is a rubbish story, isn't it? I can't remember the title of the job or the name of the woman who had it, but there was this particular woman who had this particular job that was really high pressured. Most people didn't last very long in the job, and she did. In fact, at first she stopped only because she went on maternity leave. She came back after maternity leave, straight back into this job. And I mean, this is a killer of a job, like 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., really high powered BBC Worldwide global corporate stuff. And she loved it, she said. It was so good because during the hours she was supposed to be there, she was supposed to be there. There wasn't the, should I be doing this with my child? Am I doing the right thing for this? It's, I'm here, I'm supposed to be here, I'm doing this. And then when it's done, it's done. And she was so good at it. And that compartmentalization, if you like, we're all capable of it when we're doing jobs that people are paying us to do, when we're going to offices or schools or something. It's harder to do it to ourselves, but if we can, we can. And there's movement in the chat box. Mike, your writing is important. Absolutely. Sorry, Mike, you've written that as a mantra, but the way it reads there, like you're doing lines for it. I will always say my writing is important. I will always say, well, it is. Okay. Minnesota. Oh, so nice to see you, Skip. Hello. Why aren't you writing? Because you're watching this. Okay. And sometimes write in Scrivener on the iPhone. We're waiting for the hockey game to begin. Scrivener on the iPhone. I use that for editing. I don't think I've ever actually written anything directly in Scrivener on the iPhone. I might try that. That saves the whole saving the idea and work on it later, doesn't it? It's you're getting on with it right now. Okay. I'll have that. Thank you. So yeah, you go to a job, right? And you're supposed to turn up and there are certain hours and they want more from you than that, and they pay you less and all of that stuff. But basically while you're there, fine. When you're out of it or when writing is your full-time job, it's still hard to do writing when there's cooking to be done or there's other work to complete. It can feel like an indulgence. I mean, this is something, I mean, I can't remember when I started writing now, something like 93, 94. I went full-time freelance. That's astonishingly long time ago. Wish I hadn't brought that up. Feel very old. But at certain points as a freelance writer, things are good and things are bad. And there have been bad patches in those, fortunately not for many years now, but there have been bad patches where you sit down to write something and you actually feel ashamed of doing it because this thing you're writing is not going to pay the bills. It might actually be the thing that keeps a roof over your head tomorrow and next week and next month. But right now, in that moment, writing it, it isn't. And the sense that you're letting somebody down for it is crippling and the writing. It's really hard to get going. And I can tell you it's one word after another, but even if that doesn't change, it's hard sometimes to just get going. And occasionally I think maybe you shouldn't, maybe just walk away for a bit. But on the other hand, this I can only say this to you because you're a writer, okay? Please don't tell anybody I said this. There is a certain coldness in writers. I think of it as like just the very back of your head, where no matter if something bad is happening, or something good, but definitely something bad, you remember it and you hold on to it. I don't mean the specific event, the particular problem, but I mean how you felt about it, the feeling in your chest over it. You hang on to that. You use that tomorrow, next year, 10 years' time in a character, the honesty of how you feeling. I don't want you to have bad times, but when you've got them, I think they can also be material. Um, yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Max just said about the indulgence thing. That was a word that popped out of me talking to you, and I realized, yeah, it is. Actually, sometimes maybe it is an indulgence. I mean, what did I just say about writing a story about chocolate trees? It's hard to see that as a practical thing. But, if you do it, it could be fun. 10 years ago, last week, I was helping out at a young writers conference like a workshop session, and the novelist Maeve Clark, she just wrote the Commonwealth Games opening ceremony, and she's a novelist as well. She got this group of young children to write fairy tales, and I was there. I had to write one as well. It had never, ever occurred to me to write a fairy tale. And if it had occurred to me, I don't think I would have gone as far as saying indulgence. I would have thought it was just silly. But, required to write one, wrote one. I had such a good time. I went home and wrote two more. And at some point, I keep thinking if I do another couple, I might have a children's book there. But even if I don't, I wrote something new for me, and I think it was good. And the moments when you feel that, did they kind of make it worth it? So I think so. Let's go back to practical stuff. Sorry. I've said, right, it's hard to make time to write. You know this. I offer that actually it's very easy to make time to do certain other things. Um, for me, for example, Friday morning, 6 a.m., I have to put the bins out or they won't get collected. That put out the trash for it. Okay. I know people who go to a gym on a Tuesday night. My favorite, by the way, I keep going back to this one, thinking about it, even though I don't have children, I'm a civilian, but our friends who have children say the afternoon school run is really useful. Not the morning one, but the afternoon one. And the reason is this: their school run in the afternoon, my bins, the gym, whatever it is, this is a fixed point in your week, and we all have at least some for it. Maybe it's imposed. I mean, they collect the bins at like 6:05 or something like that. It's not my choice to go then. It's fixed, but it's fixed for a reason. Doesn't matter. It's fixed. I will always now write before then. So I suggest if you're having trouble finding time to write, pick something you always do and tell yourself that you're going to write for 10 minutes before it. It's only 10 minutes, but it's 10 minutes. And after a while, when you've done this enough, it's no longer I'm going to write and go to the school, go to the gym. It's I am writing and going to school. It's like the two things become one. They are glued together in your head. Since you always know what time you've got to leave to go to the school, I know what time I've got to do the bins. I know what 10 minutes before that time is, so I can use that to do something. Except one thing, I know 10 minutes doesn't feel long, but it's long enough. And also, I was very careful there to say 10 minutes before you do something. If it's 10 minutes after, it isn't. I'm going to write for 10 minutes after I get back from the gym. No, you're not. After you cook, whatever, no, you're not. Before works, afterwards doesn't. And I think if you try doing it afterwards and then it fails, you just get even more miserable for it. Habit stacking. Oh, I'd never heard that term before. I really like that. Habit stacking. I'm having that. Thank you very much. Um, Presumably good habits. right? Not. I will. No, I was thinking about chocolate biscuits again. There. This is yeah. Doing the writing before a fixed scheduled thing should be more effective. Yeah, do try it. Sorry, I've just remembered actually, this is the first friend who ever said this to me. I'm not going to tell you her name because she's a really, really good and very well-known novelist. It was the first time I'd met her. We were talking about God knows what it was, and the thing came up of the afternoon school run. And there was one time she was so into writing a book that she forgot to go to collect her kids. Now, I mean, right, it's an argument. Did she have a partner who should have gone? All sorts of things going on. But the kicker for me was not only did she forget, but I'm certain it had happened about 15 years before I met her, and it was still on her mind. But isn't it brilliant to get so into a story that the rest of the world goes the way? Sometimes maybe particularly now these days, that's quite a good thing that we have that we can go off into our own little world. Sorry, you just put that right back in my head. Um, so I've talked about making time to write by trying to do a stacked habit. Thank you. None of that necessarily has anything to do with apps. Now, I mean, 58 Keys is for writers who write on Macs and iPhones and iPads, but really the way I look at it as it's for writers. I mean, these tools, I talk to you about them for a reason because I love them so much. They help me so much. There's just so much to talk about in them, but it's always got to be the writing we focus on. So I'm fine, you and I talking about writing instead of apps, but there is an app or there's a type of app I mentioned. Do you know the Pomodoro type of app? It's tell me in the chat box if you can remember what it stands for. PK is asking what wallpapers. Oh, this thing here. This is actually a close-up photograph of some glass. My wife Angie and I went to a glass factory and they had offcuts in bins, and that's an amazingly close focus on it. I'm really glad you like it because it was 2007 or so, long time ago, very low resolution photograph, and I keep trying to up it, but it looks worse and worse. So it may have to change soon, but thank you for asking. I love this. It's on my phone, it's on everything. Tomato time, that's it. Tomato timer kitchen thing. Mike, you know what it is. You don't have any idea why it is, do you? There are a lot of apps that call themselves Pomodoro apps. I don't have a recommendation for you. Like, as far as I can tell, they're all the same. I know they all do the same thing, which is they're a timer. You write while the timer is on. Okay. Jason Arnott, actually, a novelist I will mention, has written some truly scary books. He tells me he uses Pomodoro app. He's on a PC, but you know, what can you do? He uses a Pomodoro app and he has it set for a timer of 25 minutes. 25 minutes writing, then the Pomodoro alarm goes off, whatever it's called. He has a 5-minute break, and then he starts it again for another 25 minutes, and then he has another 5-minute break. So that's his hour throughout the day, and then does it the next hour and the next hour, and however long he writes for in the day. So apps are available for even the smallest things like that. The original person before the idea practiced it was using a kitchen timer. That was a tomato. Okay, got this image now of throwing a tomato every few seconds. Yeah. Anyway, okay, so what have we learned so far? Uh, Tomatoes, kitchens. Do you know, an hour ago I was cutting a tomato in a kitchen and then I forgot to eat it. Oh, Tanya's saying you have a schedule app called Tick Tick. Right. Yes, you can't if you ignore it. Well, actually, no. I'll tell you what. The official answer, if this was a serious productivity talk, I would be saying no. You write until the alarm goes off and then you stop. But if you were so into your writing that you carried on, fine. What's wrong? Am I allowed? Writers can hold different thoughts at the same time, can't we? We can have conflicting thoughts. I love the idea of not doing what I'm told because of an app. That really appeals to me. But actually, this is something I do, and I do it a lot. I think I recommend it. I certainly have recommended it to people, but it usually comes when I have a lot to do or I don't have anything to do. It's like the extremes. There's nothing in the middle for it. Getting alarm for sleeping and dreaming, but here it disturbs your daydreaming. What would we do without daydreaming? I would be less distracted. Okay. Um, in these extremes, the very busy and the not at all busy, you finish something, you've submitted it somewhere, you've delivered it to the publisher, and then it's all over. That moment of starting up again, those extremes. I will. Its best example is with you got a lot on. Right now, I'm juggling things I write for AppleInsider.com. There's a Writers Guild. Talking to you on 58 Keys. There's a couple of other clients and things. I work at the Royal Television Society. That's 6 or something. Certain days, certain times, they each require me to do certain hours with them. But when it's the weekend or it's free in some way, I will devote the next hour to the Writers Guild or to the script that I'm trying to get finished. But it's very specifically an hour. So telling you this thing of ignoring the end of the time, that tickles me, but I won't do it on the hour. Um, I will do 60 minutes writing on a project, switch the phones off, switch off everything off, do 60 minutes, and then I will stop. But it has to be 60 minutes. I won't stop on 59. I won't go to 61. When I'm in this sort of crunch period and I need to get stuff done, I will do exactly 60 minutes. And it is punishing. Really, really commonly, you'll get 20 minutes into the hour and you are spent. There's not another word you could wring out of your fingers, but you sit there and you try, and you don't even get a cup of tea or a biscuit later. You work at this for this reason. Just often enough, what you write between that 20th minute in and the end is the best thing you've written in that hour. It's, I wish it was every time. I wish it was even 1 in 10. I just sometimes, often enough, what you write is good enough that it's worth all the times you wrote rubbish for it. Can we share the wallpaper? Oh, there must be a way to do it. Yes. Okay. Let me think about that. I'll see if I can put one in the comments when this is a recording on there. And Tanya, conflicting thoughts, job description. Excellent. Okay. But let me finish a thought while I've gone off on conflicting thoughts for this. Yeah, the hour, the last 40 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever it is that you feel dry and you push through, you get this great sometimes writing. There is a reason why you don't keep going. The reason why I will never go past the hour. That's not true. You're on a deadline, publisher's waiting, producer's waiting, you write till it's done. But optimally, and when I'm writing for myself to prepare something to try to pitch to somebody, I will stop on the hour, because by the time you've reached an hour, one of two things have happened. One is it's fantastic. You've broken through whatever it is, and this is going so well, you could write forever, or it's awful, dreadful. You never want to do anything about this again. In that case, you leave the hour feeling quite relieved, I think. Plus, you accomplished something. You did something difficult. You did it, pat yourself on the back, have your tea, have your 3 biscuits, good. If you stop when it's all great, then I think you come back to it feeling ready. You can't wait to start it again. But if it's going brilliantly and you keep going, at some point, it's going to stop going well. You're going to kind of decline until you end up at the point where it stops going well. And now you finish it on a low and you're back to this thing of it's over, it's gone, whatever. And then coming back tomorrow or coming back in a couple of hours is that much harder for it. So ignoring alarms sounds like a proper writer, but in terms of getting things written, my hour system works for me. You might find the Pomodoro thing is better for you, but try sticking to those limits and see what happens for it. Okay. Pomodoro on an iPad. Oh, you would turn it against the wall every time it alarms. Okay. I feel we should talk this through a little bit here. Anyway, these were the things I wanted to talk to you about today on this first ever live 58 Keys. The thing is, I rather like talking to you live. like this. It's fun having the chat box there, but I want to do more of this. So right at the stop, right at the top, I said, if you can tell me where you're watching this, whether you're doing it live now or later in the comments and things, it really helped me to try to figure out a good time that we can get together. I mean, I'll put the kettle on, you bring the biscuits, we'll figure out a time that we can do some things together. Also, though, it was really important to me to have a thing to talk to you about. I like it that we get to just gas away, but I don't want to just, amble at you, amble, preamble, gabble, all of these words. I want us to have something meaty to talk about. So, are there topics that you think we could go over together? It's Wednesday now in the UK, and quite possibly where you are too. Tomorrow night, I'm doing half an hour's talk for a writing group about dialogue, which is absolutely my favorite thing in writing. Would a dialogue chat be useful? Chatting about dialogue feels right, doesn't it? If you can think of things that we can have a talk about, we might do this more often. Also, as this is going to be kind of the end of the third series of 58 Keys, and we immediately start the fourth, I want to add some things to 58 Keys. I've just done a series of news podcasts for a company, and I really enjoyed it. I used to work on BBC Radio, all their news skills came back. Well, I hope they did. Anyway, I'm thinking for us, there should be a 58 Keys writing podcast that has writing news and something else like that. Would that be of use to you, of interest to you? Maybe there's something we can do together that adds more 58 keysness and basically stops us having to write all that more. And suddenly not sure that was a brilliant idea. Skip say this is a great time for you, 1 p.m. Oh, digital age. You've learned something. Oh, that's very nice. Thank you. 13:45. Yeah, Aaron. It's an awkward time in the States, isn't it? I write a lot for an American publication, so I'm constantly actually can you see, can I just show you this? You see that black square there? That used to be my iPad dashboard that had this big New York time clock on it. And for 3 months now, I've been trying to replace it with a Mac that does all sorts of other things. And it went off just before we started talking. So I'm used to working in different time zones. I like the States. Let's figure out a time that's good for all of us. Writing podcast, yay. All right, good. That's very nice. 11 a.m. Okay, whereabouts are you? What time zone, if you don't mind me asking? That'd be a help for me as well. Speaking then about podcasts and other 58 keysness, let me tell you that coming up on 58 Keys next week, there's 5 writing tips for iPhone users. I mentioned one of them, the Hey Iris, remind me about this, but there's this gorgeous one to do with maps. Just love that one. I've only just found it out. Probably the week after, there's a lot to tell you about VPNs. I think you've come across VPNs, like it's supposed to be security software for your Mac and your iPhone and your iPad, and it is. And that sounds so exciting. But there's a thing they give us as writers for research tools that is just great. So that'll be the week after, probably. Coming up further along the line, I'm planning still. I'm going to get that dashboard working, and I'll show you eventually when it is. I want to do a whole series on research for writers. I mean, I've done books where I've gone into archives. I've used the gear to try to handle thousands of pages of documents and then finding the bits you want. I think there's a lot we can talk about there. But it'd be really useful to me if you can talk about topics that you would be interested in that you think I might know for it. I mean, if I don't know the answer, I'll really, really enjoy finding it out. You could be my excuse for not writing. So if there's a writing or a Apple topic you think we can have a chat with or I can do some useful with, do let me know. Norway 2045. Norway, that's very exciting. I've just missed a line about there. How many words do you write per day on average? I don't know the per day total, but I can tell you my peak. I can write 10,000 words a day for about 10 days, or I can write 20 pages of script for about 10 days in a row, and then I'm flattened for the rest of the next week or something. So it's like a peak level. I would estimate maybe 3,000 to 4,000 on a quiet day. I do a lot of news writing, so it's lots of short things for it like that. But you hadn't thought about that. Southern California, thanks, Dot. Oh, right, Tanya. Actually, if you can recommend some podcasts that we can all share about, that'd be really good. And let's see, Aaron. What do I think of the free right? Not an Apple product. Oh well, you say you've got one and you like it for it. Um, I keep wanting to try it, but then I keep thinking, I don't know, the obvious limitations, and I've forgotten what they are. How useful is that? I'm in and out. Tony, you're using VPNs. Oh, to stream things not available in your region. All right. Well, that was half of the dodgy things I was going to tell you how to do. The other one is how to get around. No, not how to get around. How to cope with researching websites in other countries. I'm in the UK, which, despite its best efforts, apparently is part of Europe. It is. And we have a thing called GDPR here, the General Data Protection Act. And some countries, particularly America, for them to allow us to read here from the UK, it's too much paperwork and things. So they just cut off the UK for it in the whole of Europe. With a VPN, I can read news sites that I should otherwise not be allowed access to. So you find you're tracking down something, a character's going to a foreign country, you can read the local newspaper through a VPN. Love these things for it. Oh, okay. And lots of research to do. Aaron, you've got research. What sort of book are you doing, Aaron? Series and research would be great. Adapting historical research to fiction. Oh, yeah, you might be on your own for that bit. For it, I can do the research, I can write the fiction, but there's a producer. I'm in the Midlands in the UK. There's a famous television producer, unfortunately died recently, Tony Garnett, responsible for a lot of very powerful British television drama. And I saw him give a talk once, and he said that he would hire. He wasn't a writer; he would hire writers, and his argument for all of them was whatever the project was, research, 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 make it up. So embed yourself in the topic, get it in you, and then make it up. And you will have absorbed what's said. The reality will be in there. So rather than being slavish to fact, make it up at the end. And obviously fix any glaring errors for it. Teresa Ripley, marketing what you write. That is a big one. And Teresa, you've been in touch with me with marketing suggestions. I think you know this already. You should be doing this. I wonder if I could just hand over the keys to you for a bit, all 58 of them in one go. That's a thought. Marketing. Okay, marketing is on the list. You're right. I want to say that, I mean, obviously I don't know everything, but in 30 years of doing this, I mean, of course I don't know everything. In 30, I'm up against a lot of the problems. So I'm reasonably hopeful that if I don't know something, I know who I can ask help, such as Teresa, for example. Falmouth, it's cold here too. It is so cold. You can't see this. I have a heater behind me, and I had this blanket thing over me. I shoved it out the way just before we started talking. Yeah, this is really too much information. Oh, Tanya, Script Notes podcast for script writers. Oh, funny, I've just started listening to that. I could listen to the one about the writing of Ocean's 11 the other day, and yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? I mean, that is, the writer is interesting, but also what the writer has to do, the publication, not publication, the production side of it, the demands back and forth. Yeah, Script Notes, that's very good, thank you. Yeah, maybe do a roundup. I'll tell you what, 58 Keys, at some point we'll do a roundup of podcasts and videos and things that are useful, but I don't think there's any point if it's just what's useful to me. So in the comments below or in the chat here, let me know of other things you want, and I'll start you off. 99% Invisible, the podcast about design. It's about the design, I don't know, a spanner, but if you look at the spanner, the story behind it, or more recently, they actually did one about fire engines. And I suppose, you know, they're red. But why they're red, the history of it. You know, firemen and women going down the holes, why that happened, why it's no longer happening. All of this stuff is riveting, and the characters for it. It is not in any way a writing podcast, but it's utterly riveting, I think. So let's have some of those for it. I'll tell you what, actually, it's coming up to, let me show you this. Look at that. That's a studio clock. Used to have these in BBC radio studios, and I totally love it. And there was one on that dashboard Mac, and I was so smug. I was going to subtly show you all this, and it went totally wrong. It is 1952 here in the UK. This recording will still be available afterwards for it, and I'll be adding some bits and pieces to the description for it, like notes of some of the things mentioned, some things we're talking about. But really, I just wanted to say hello for this one, and let's do this again sometime. Let's have a reason to chat. Would you be up for kind of a monthly live natter, even if it was just a natter between us writers? I sometimes think writers need other writers quite a lot. I have a friend who describes talking with other writers as being nourishment. And I think she's right there. Yeah, it's been really good talking with you. And Panos, am I pronouncing your name? Excellent. Thank you. Oh, yes, you would be. For digital age, you do. Yay. Oh, right. Oh, right. Well, okay, Steve. All right, Steve Jones. I'm looking at you now. This beats writing. I don't know whether to be flattered or not. It's not flattering, is it? It's just an excuse for not writing. Okay, I'll tell you what, we're gonna have to that's on that bombshell. We're gonna stop on that one. And Steve, specifically you, Steve, are gonna go write something right now, aren't you? Thank you very much, everybody, for joining. It's a joy chatting away with you. 58 Keys isn't done very often far in advance because it's meant to be up to the minute, and usually it's what I've just found out. But still, you know, I do it sitting here. I'm recording 2 tomorrow morning that I mentioned for it. It's nice to be able to just, you know, kind of sort of see your face, so to speak. So thank you very much for joining this, and hopefully I will see you again soon. Okay. Take care now. Oh, hang on, hang on, hang on. Teresa is finding chocolates. Okay, on that bombshell. Bye bye.